Salutations!
Sup, my doggies?
All right, welcome to the first episode of Left Brain, Right Brain. Jess, do you have any idea what we're talking about today?
Probably something old. Something that makes you sound old.
Really? Does economics make me sound old? Because that's what we're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
It always does. All right.
All right.
Better just.
Okay.
Full attention.
So, we have some breaking news. Not so breaking news, but still pretty important news. That might be very relevant to you. There's been a pasta crisis in Italy.
What?
Yeah, a massive pasta crisis. Major issues occurring in Italy. So
This is so sad for Italy.
as an Italian, how do you feel about this issue now that it's brought up? Is it heartbreaking?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just want to point out some of the language that is being used to describe this issue. Problem of national significance.
Ooh.
Yeah. And also words, a tsunami of high prices.
I don't think that's a likely comparison.
What would you describe this as an English major? Hyperbole, perhaps?
I would just say, damn, those prices high.
Okay. Well, the reasons that we've heard for inflation.
Okay.
There are two big reasons that we always hear from anyone whenever there's talk of prices going up. And the first reason, which a lot of the companies tend to refer to, is they either blame COVID or they blame the war in Ukraine as causing issues for their supply line.
Damn COVID! It's always the vid! All right.
The vid? That's what we're calling it now?
The COVID. Yeah.
Yes, and
you've heard those people.
Really?
It's the coronas.
It's called the vid now. That's the trendy term.
Coined by me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then the second thing that you often hear from all the sometimes the companies, but mainly you hear it from the workers and the unions, is we're talking about corporate profits as the main issue.
Cha-ching.
And so they're simply blaming inflation and just raking in many, many more profits. So I know we're getting into graphs.
This
it's getting
like
confusing.
Some math.
You don't actually, talking to both Jess and to you don't actually have to know what these mean, but if you do, that's great.
Okay.
But usually inflation or the increase in price is caused by a decrease in production, and that's shown here on the left, and
Pushing.
or yes,
Got pushed.
The companies are the supply is pushing, and then so we call that cost push. And then there's also the situation where you have a lot of buyers, and then you call that a demand pull. So
pull. Yeah.
I realize we're getting into the economics heavy section of today's video. So
Okay.
I've introduced a little break for us. We have a nice cat
Slay.
with sunglasses.
It looks very cute.
Yeah. Be the judge
That
of
looks like a millennial cat.
Okay. That's a very interesting descriptor for millennials.
Let's get on to some velocity and quantity.
Yeah. So this equation is 4 parts, and I know math. This is math. How do you feel about math?
Don't like it. It's bad. We need to abolish it.
Abolish math.
Abolish math.
Okay.
For the greater good. You know how much good that would do if we didn't
To
have
abolish math?
Yes. Not like adding, but like whatever this is.
Algebra. So you're saying we should abolish algebra.
Once you start putting letters into it, that's my field. Leave that to English. I feel very strongly that letters and numbers...
Letters and numbers should not go together.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like heaven and hell. You can't mix them.
Well, all right. Well, numbers are my friends. So
Yeah,
you just said a very mean thing about my friends. We have 4 components that are really important to this equation. We have money supply and velocity on one side, which is the total amount of money and the speed at which it's moving. And then here, the price and the quantity, which is like the total output. You can think of like the total output in an economy as all the things that are made times the price at which they're sold.
Pakia.
Yeah. Okay. So, That's a great acronym. You can bring to economics class. This would be very helpful.
And you have to say it like that.
Just in the middle of an exam room, just going like, yeah.
That's all.
Okay, and you can see this was 100% Kevin's idea. Ignore the citation, Kevin's idea. What we're showing here is like a very simplified economy in 1 year.
In 1 year, one person gives $100. Stingy.
And then it's a very small economy with only 4 people. But then, so you can see how much is the money supply in this economy?
$100.
Okay, and what is the velocity?
4?
It's 3 because the money
yeah.
switches hands. The money is spent 3 times.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
we're not counting the rich guy.
So now if you scale this up
With all the
to
money.
the entire world or in a whole country, you can count all the money that's in a country and you can count how many times that money is spent.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so back to,
Hell yeah.
and so we've looked at the left side, right side, pretty straightforward. Okay, another cute cat break.
Aww, don't wake
Cat's
him up.
sleeping, yeah.
Don't wake him up.
This, our friend here in the bottom right corner.
That
This
dude's
is-
our friend? That does not look like someone who would want to be friends with me. He's already looks mad. He already looks like he's judging
That's-
us.
The chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, or
And
the Fed.
and hey, I think I'm right.
And the central bank, or the Fed, is typically like a bank for banks. So if you imagine like...
Bank.
Yeah, the bank. So
Okay.
you imagine your bank needs a bank. They're the bank for the bank. And what they do...
And can you explain why he's our friend?
We don't know who he's friends with.
Of course we don't.
But he's a pretty important guy.
All right.
Because what he does, and what he does along with the Federal Reserve and the central bank, is that he
Yeah.
controls the M portion of the equation. Right?
But yeah, the money.
So, yes,
He looks like he does.
he is in control of all of the money that is in an economy, the money supply, which, if we go back here, so J. Powell, this guy, Jerome Powell, has the ability to essentially increase the amount of money or decrease the amount of money.
So he can print
wants.
money?
Yes, and he can unprint money.
That
So-
sounds like too much power for one dude named Jerome.
What's
Too
wrong
much.
with Jerome?
I mean, doesn't hit the ear right for someone who should be printing money. Alexander, that dude can print money because he was also Hamilton.
Mm.
But Jerome, not given a powerful enough name to be printing money.
Okay. Well, yes. So they can control M. They don't get to control V though. That's controlled by everyone
Velocity.
spending. Yeah. Good job. You got it. That's controlled by everyone spending their own money. So essentially, conceptualizing sort of what happened during COVID was that the velocity of money decreased significantly. Everyone sort of just stayed home. They stopped buying stuff. They stopped, going out to restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. And
It sucked.
and so normally what would happen if you just ignore this blue arrow here for a second and just think about MV. If the left side of the equation goes down, then the right
Yeah.
side of the equation also has to go down. And that's really bad.
Yeah.
Demonstrated by me saying simply that this is bad. And Kevin being very, very scared.
Why is it bad?
If people stop spending money, your income is actually someone else's spending, right? So if the spending stops, you lose your income.
Okay.
So if you work at a bakery, for example, right, and you're selling croissants, or you work in a pasta shop and you sell
Okay.
pasta.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, people have to buy your pasta, and then it's for you to get paid, right? If people stop buying your pasta, you wouldn't get paid. But then you wouldn't be able to turn around and spend what you just earned on pasta. So it's kind of like a cycle, and
Okay.
when it starts to go down, it keeps on tumbling downwards for a good while.
All right.
And so what our friend, or not friend, Jerome,
The enigma.
yeah, what our friend Jerome did was Jerome was like, okay, we can't have this happen. We can't have Kevin being scared. Okay, that's a big
That's not
problem.
allowed.
That's not good. So what we're going to do is we're going to pump M up a bunch, and we're going to lower our interest rates. We're going to do quantitative easing, and basically just like largely expand the amount of money that's in your economy.
Print more.
Yeah.
More good.
Yep. There's this funny meme.
Yes, go on to explain the meme verbally to me.
It's just a gif of Jerome Powell with I think it's like a pasta churner, and then he's just like churning out money. But yeah.
What a great meme.
Yeah,
that is
I know.
surely a meme.
It's great.
That is definitely the definition of a meme.
So now, so COVID was over, and what sort of happened is that the money supply stayed high because our friend Jerome pumped a lot into it. But our velocity is slowly increasing as the economy opens up and all that. And that's causing, but like Q, the amount that like companies can produce is still kind of at a standstill, right? So what we are sort of looking at now is the prices are increasing at a very pretty fast rate, and that's also bad.
Yes.
And Kevin here is quite annoyed.
Aren't we all?
Hey,
aren't we all?
Kevin is quite annoyed now. So we're gone from scared to annoyed.
Also, why was chicken breast like $40 that one time? Hey, how about that?
I have
Do you
no
see
idea.
that?
I'm not sure. That might have been.
What are we feeling?
That might have been the bird flu.
What? Birds can get the flu.
There's a special kind of flu that the birds can get that's really bad. So you have
birds can get the flu?
Not our flu. It's like a different flu. It's the avian flu.
Avian?
I think it's avian flu.
Only aviators can get it. If you're a pilot, you better watch out.
So back to what happened was our friend Jerome started really pulling down the money supply.
He stopped
to try and stop P from going up. Of course, as we mentioned earlier in our pasta crisis, there are also other factors that contributed to that inflation. Part of it could have been, COVID and the war bringing quantity down, so that would have been this. And then as quantity goes down, but all this is going up, your price has got to go up, right? Or if your corporate profits, that's just jacking up the price artificially, right? So there are also other explanations, but to all the finance bros, and this is...
Yeah, finance bros, listen up.
It's like, I do see a lot of people just on the internet, a lot of finance bros, going like...
You can't print more money?
Yeah.
What, you stupid or something? If you print more money, then you print more. It's not gonna be worth it. Hey, shut up.
And then,
please, I don't want to hear another guy, another finance bro on TikTok when a girl is making a joke and she's like, "Why don't we just print more money?" Stop duetting and saying, "Stop it."
But
anyway,
back to the issue of printing money. It's not necessarily the worst thing, because at the end of the day, quite helpful when you're trying to, in this situation, you're trying to stop P and Q from falling down. But it can also cause problems later on. But it's about finding a balance. So I don't want to there's a lot of people, well, that's debatable, but there's a lot of people who, who look at graphs of the money supply increasing by twofold and are like, but
finance bros be panicking.
It may not be necessarily, looking from this point of view at least, it may not necessarily be the worst thing, and is often a tool that can be used to fix things, fix shit.
That was a lot of mouth to say that it fixes it.
I was trying to think of a more academic word. And so that is, that's all we have for today.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I know you like the orange cats.
I like the orange ones.
I saved the orange cats for the very end. That was the first episode of Economics with Kevin.
Kevin did such a good job.
Kevin did a great job presenting this material. I could not have done it without Kevin right here.
Nah.
So
he couldn't have.
leave your praises for Kevin in the comments.
Kevin, he looked into it. He did what all of us were too afraid to do. And then he cited his sources.
All right, everyone. Well, we'll see you next episode. Live, laugh, love.
Live, laugh, love. Peace out, my guys. Aha.